time coming up for you, so we appreciate you taking the time to join us today. The group is getting close to the Olympics, a couple of send-off games coming up. What's the mood amongst the group and for you getting set for this big competition ahead?
Well, obviously everybody's very excited. We have most of the players arriving today, so we come together this evening with a meeting and then tomorrow training together in a build towards the Mexico game at the weekend. So all of our focus is on preparing for that and building off of the good work from the last camp.
In this new upcoming camp with these two send-off games, you'll take on Mexico and you also take on Costa Rica. What are the challenges that you expect to see from this competition to test your group?
Well, I think if we, go backwards to the Gold Cup and we look at the performances against Mexico, it'd be a great opportunity for us to see, what work we've put in place and how that will impact that performance. I know the team, were really disappointed with both the outcome and the performance in that game. So I think it gives us a great steer to see if the learnings have been in the right direction and, what we need to keep improving on, because I think Mexico are a very good team.
Coach, what are some of those key areas of improvement that you're still looking to see as your group tunes up for the Olympics?
Probably the big thing for me is control, but I want to make sure in every game we're in charge of, managing the ability to do what we want to do in the game. So being patient enough in our possession to progress the ball, I think, is an essential component of tournament play. And I think for us as a team, making sure everybody from front to back on the same page, especially both sides of the ball.
Coach, looking forward to the Olympics, you announced your roster, 18 players that are on the full roster, 4 alternates that are also joining you in Paris for the Olympics. Goalkeeper Jane Campbell, midfielder Hal Hirschfeld, and Croy Bethune, and then forward Lynn Williams. When you look at just those 4 alternates, they pack a punch. But what went into the decision-making to bring those 4?
No, that's a good question. I think I've always got one eye on what we're doing now and what we're doing in the future. I think that's important. That I've mentioned before, there are a lot of players within this squad that haven't developed a lot of international experience and don't have the cap accumulation, which I think does play an important part for future success. So we have to start doing that. But I also think with players like Croy and Hal, they've been top performers in the NWSL, alongside Lynn Williams before her injury. And I think in Jane Campbell came into camp, to be honest, there was nothing to separate the goalkeepers. But, I feel that the alternates will play a critical part of the 22, and the fact that we have the ability to be able to make changes if there's temporary injuries, I think will demonstrate that all 22 players will matter.
That's a big statement. I like to hear that all 22 players are going to matter in this Olympics. What is the protocol to getting those 4 extra players involved in the full 18 during the Olympics?
Well, the protocol for that, from my understanding, is that if there is an injury to a player, a temporary injury to a player, we can swap an alternate with one of the 18 with 6 hours notice, and then we can flip it back if the player within the 18 recovers from injury. So that gives flexibility where didn't exist before. Sometimes I wonder why they didn't just say it's 22 players, but I don't make the rules, but I certainly believe in a whole squad, so I know everybody will count.
Coach, there was so much anticipation to your arrival, and now that you've gotten to be with this group in person, what are some of the pleasant surprises that you've discovered in working with this group of players?
I've said it, so many times. They're great learners, great listeners, great learners. They apply. I think we talk so much about what the college education system does for them on the pitch, but off the pitch, there's so many, not just determined women, but they're thought leaders. They understand how to grasp ideas and concepts quite quickly. They're well educated. I think that makes it easier for learning, but they're also a group that so desperate to do well and improve. it just stood out to me, the level of humility amongst the group.
When you look at this group, of course, there are named captains that will take on a lot of the leadership of the 18 and the 22 in Paris. But who are other players that have stepped up and maybe shown you a different side of their leadership being in camp with you?
Well, look, first of all, I think we have to mention there's a lot of veteran leadership, you know, from Melissa Nair to Crystal Dunn, Emily Sonnet, Rose Lavelle, to name a few, Lynn Williams. There are players that can take responsibilities for the team. But beyond that, there are, I think, so many future leaders, something I aim to develop them as leaders, getting them to understand what that looks like. And of course, in Naomi Girma, we've got, you know, a player that's got unbelievable experience, someone her age, but I think a future leader for this team. But I honestly could say it about a lot of players across the group, and I'm expecting everybody to contribute in one way or another.
Coach, we have a really special event happening in collaboration with the send-off match against Mexico in celebration of the 1999 team. And really, when you look back on the history of the U.S. women's national team, that group was so influential in how the U.S. women's national team is even perceived today. You have a big job ahead to get this team back up to some of those expectations and standards. What is your perception of that 99 team and what they mean to not just the U.S. women's national team, but women's soccer as a whole?
Well, I've often said this. They were my role models. I never had any in England, but that team was certainly that for me. So being given the opportunity to lead the current team while hosting the 99ers is like a personal dream. And I have a few surprises in store for the whole group in terms of, you know, stuff that I want us to prepare the current team for going into the Olympics. You know, building on the legacy of the 99ers and everybody who's represented the shirt. But I think, of course, expectations are there. I think it's so important, though, that our group focus on the here and now and the things we can control and doing our best to represent the shirt in the best way possible, but do that in a way that I think allows us to perform, you know, and there's no point piling more and more pressure on a team that is almost having to, you know, achieve sometimes unrealistic expectations from the fan base. But one thing I know is that everybody is going to do everything they possibly can to make sure the shirt is represented in the best way possible.
A lot to come for this group and for you, Coach, but the outfits and the shoe game as well. You mentioned you're going to do a little shopping right now while you're in New York. What can we expect to see you dressed in on the sidelines for the send-off games and the Olympics?
Listen, packing for this trip was impossible. And I've got to think about my 6-year-old joining me as well. So I had to think about packing for him. I have got everything and nothing all at once. I've got a classic women's suitcase, which is lots of things, but most of them you don't really need. So I suspect I will be trying to rescue the situation somewhere through the tournament where I might need to get some clothes. But actually, my mum's coming, and I love my mum's clothes, so maybe I'll borrow some of hers.
Oh, that's the best, when you can share clothes from your sister, your mom, your friend. You double your wardrobe.
Exactly. Emma Hayes, ladies and gentlemen, she is just like us. She also struggles with the what's where I packed everything, but yet nothing at all. That happens to me every single vacation I go on. But one thing we do know about Emma Hayes, she's going to be dripping on the touchline. We look so forward to watching you lead this group through the 2 send-off games and in the Olympics as well. Best of luck. Enjoy your time in New York, and thanks for taking the time to join us today.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Take care.